So today for mathematics, you are going to be looking at the change of subject of formula. Now, anywhere that you are asked to change subject of formula, what it actually means is that whatever you are asked to change the subject of formula to, that means that that particular variable must stand alone. Sometimes they call it change of subject of relation. It's either change of subject of formula or change of subject of relation. So what they want you to do is that variable that they mention, make that variable stand alone. Make that variable stand alone. Now, before you can do that, you must be able to know the number of terms that you are having. That's why we discussed about identifying terms in the previous class. So you should be able to identify the number of terms that you are having. Now, apart from being able to identify the number of terms, you should also know that there are some cases that the number of terms might not be what you think it is. For example, if you have y is equal to 2x plus 1, then everything is having power, maybe raised power 2. Now, what you are going to say is that the number of terms, actually we have, this is a term because it has its own sign, but this is also a term. Now in this particular case, you won't consider 2x as a term and 1 also as a separate term. Why? Because all together, this 2x and this 1, they are the ones that are having this power. So you are going to consider everything like this as a single term, unless you have been able to expand it. Now if you are able to expand it, then you can now have each term separate, like 2x plus 1 square. That's going to be 2x plus 1, 2x plus 1. So you have 2x plus 1, 2x plus 1, then you multiply. So you have 2x plus 1 multiplied by 2x plus 1. Sorry, you have 2x multiplied by 2x, that is 4x squared. You have 2x multiplied by 1, that is 2x, plus 1 times 2x, that is 2x, then plus 1 times 1, that is 1. So by the time you add everything, you have 4x squared. 2x plus 2x give us 4x, then plus 1. Now you can confidently say you're having 3 terms, because this one is having its own sign. So this is 1 term, 2 term, the 3rd term, then this is now the 4th term. So overall, the thing is going to look like this. Instead of having y equals 2x plus 1 all squared, you are going to have y equals 4x squared plus 4x plus 1. This is what we are going to have. Now this one contains how many terms? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So it contains 4 terms. Now this one is very easy. So that means that what this is trying to tell us is that you can actually know the number of terms if you are having something like a power that some of them are sharing. So until you look for a way to simplify that power, then you are going to consider everything that own that power as being just one term until you have found a way to remove it. Now, how do we remove powers? How do we remove powers? Now, you know what we have is 2x plus 1 squared. Now, there are 2 ways of removing this square so that you can know the number of terms. Now, it's either you expand it, just like we did here, that you just multiply it, or you take this power, you take it to the other side. Now, how are you going to take the power to the other side? Now, what you're having here is we're having y raised power 1 equals 2x plus 1 raised power 2. This is what we are having. Now, what you just do is that since you are trying to remove this power, how can we remove 2 from here? You are going to divide it by 2. So automatically, you come here and also divide the power by 2. Now, don't forget, what are we trying to remove? We are trying to remove powers. This is a power. This is also a power. How do you remove powers? You remove powers by dividing. You remove powers by dividing. So since it is these 2 that you want to remove, that means you divide this side by that 2 and you divide this side by that 2. But don't forget that the 2 that you are trying to remove is a power. So don't go and divide everything by 2. This is wrong, because what you are actually trying to remove is on the power. So that means that it is the power that you're supposed to divide by 2, which is the same thing that I did here. I didn't come here now and now say y divide by 2. No. So we are dividing the power here by 2. So automatically the other side you also divide the power by 2. So that you now have y raised power 1 over 2 equals 2x plus 1 raised power 1. Now instead of having this is the same thing as saying y raised power 1 over 2 equals 2x plus 1, because it's just raised power 1. So if anything is raised power 1, you don't need to put it. So this is what you are going to have. So you cannot say it has 3 terms. You can say it has 3 terms. So this is 1, 2, and 3. Now it's because y is alone here, that's why we counted it as 1, exactly the way we did this, because 2x plus 1 are the ones that together they own these 2. That's why we are also counting them as 1. So without expanding, this is one term, this is another term, because they share the same power. So we have 2 terms. Now if we transfer these 2 to the other side, that means that we try to remove these 2 from here. So that means we have to divide the power on both sides by 2, which is what we did here. That means that you are now going to have this. That means you are now having 3 terms, 1, 2, and 3. And also if you decide to just expand, we are going to get this line. Then you are going to have how many terms? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have to understand all this, because there is no fixed way of working here. You work in such a way as to get what you are looking for. Now let's try an example. Now look at this example. Y equals 3x squared. Y equals 3x squared. We have been asked to make x the subject of the relation. Now how many terms are we having? This one is very easy. We are having just 2 terms, 1 and 2, because there are 2 positive signs. So we are having just 2 terms, and there is no group that is sharing a power. Only this x owns this square, so we don't have any problem with this. Now what we are now having is that what have we been asked to make the subject of formula? That is x. We are trying to make x the subject of the formula. Now what are those things that are disturbing our x? Look at it. This 3 is not supposed to be here, since we are looking for x. This 2 is also not supposed to be here. Now the next thing you are going to do is that you are going to be removing those things from there. But the easiest one to remove here is this 3. So anywhere that you are having maybe a coefficient and a power, always remove the coefficient before removing the power. Do you understand? Remove the coefficient before removing the power. So don't try to remove the power first in this kind of instance. You try to remove the coefficient, because you are having only x, not that they are a group. So you try to remove the coefficient before removing the power. Now how do you remove the coefficient? Now what you have to know is, how is that coefficient, how is it joined with what we want to have? This is the same thing as saying y is equal to 3 multiplied by x squared. So they are joined with what? Multiplication. So since they are joined with multiplication, we said it in the previous classes that the opposite of multiplication is division. So that means you have to divide by that thing. So that means that you divide both sides by this 3 that is disturbing x. So you divide this side by 3, you divide this side by 3. Now the 3 will cancel out. We are having y over 3 equals x squared. Now what do we have left that is disturbing x? This 2, which is a power. Now we have talked about how to remove powers. You divide the power on both sides by that power. So that means that you must make sure that this one is also having power. You write it in such a way that it will look like it's having power. So you write this as y over 3 since it's not having any power, just say raised power 1 equals x raised power 2. Now to remove your 2, you divide both sides by 2. You divide both sides by 2. But don't forget that we are dividing the power on both sides by 2. Not that you divide the whole stuff and come and say divide by 2. That's going to be wrong. Look at this particular case. We are dividing both sides by 3, but that 3 is a coefficient. That's why we also divided this one by 3. And we did not go and divide the power by 3, because it is not the power that we are trying to remove. So if you are trying to remove power, you divide powers. But if you are trying to remove coefficient, you divide the whole stuff. So we are going to have y over 3 raised power 1 over 2 equal to x, because this will cancel this. So that means x is equal to y over 3 raised power 1 over 2. This is a property of equations, that when you have it that the left hand side is equal to the right hand side, you can also write it that the right hand side is equal to the left hand side. It's still the same thing. So that means you are going to have x equal to, now there's something about fractional powers. Whenever you have a fractional power, you can always turn it to a root. You can always turn it to a root. Now if it is 2 that we are having, then you are also going to put that 2. Then you put whatever you are having inside the bracket, which is y over 3. Now if it is 2 that we are having here, if you like, you can put that 2 here. And if you like, you might not put it. Just write ordinary square root. So if anywhere you see square root, it is the same thing as something raised power 1 over 2. It might not necessarily be x, but let me just put x. So if you have this root, it is the same thing as raised power 1 over 2. But if it is not raised power 1 over 2, then you have to put whatever is there. If it is x raised power 1 over 3, let me start from here. If you have x raised power 1 over 2, it is the same thing as the root of x. If you like, put the 2. If you like, don't put it. If you have x raised power 1 over 3, it is the same thing as the root of x. But this time around, you have to put that 3. So if it is 2, if you like, put it. If you like, don't put it. But if it is not 2, please and please, you must put it. If you have x raised power 1 over 4, it is the same thing as what? This, then x. Then you put that 4. It is only when it is 2 that you might put it and you might not put it. Now, this is not the same thing as this. They are not the same thing. So your number on top, you have to put it very small inside the tail of the square root. That's how we do it. You have to put it as a very little number in the tail of the square root. So that's it. Now let's try another example. We have y is equal to 5x squared plus 4. Make x the subject of the formula. Now you look at those things that are disturbing x. You look at those things that are disturbing x. This 5 is disturbing x. This 2 is disturbing x. This 4 is also disturbing x. Now what you are going to do is that in this case you have many things that are disturbing x, but you remove them in order to their closeness to your x. Now you look at which one is the farthest away from x. If you look at them, this 5 and this 2, they are very close to x, so you can't remove them yet. You first of all remove those ones that are far away, like this 4. This 4 is the farthest from x, so it's the first one you remove. Now you now look at how that 4 is connected to x. It's connected with what? With the plus sign. What's the opposite of addition? That is subtraction. So that means that you have to subtract this 4 from both sides. Don't forget, whatever you do to one side, you also do it to the other side. So you have to subtract 4 from both sides. So what are we going to have? You are going to have y minus 4 equal to 5x squared plus 4 minus 4. This is what we said. You subtract 4 from both sides. Now by the time you subtract, this plus 4 will cancel this minus 4. What are you going to have left? You're going to have y minus 4 equals 5x squared. Now look at this. This now resembles the previous example that we did. So which one do we remove first? Are we going to remove the coefficient first or the power? We first of all remove the coefficient. So now how is the coefficient? How is it joined to x? They are joined with multiplication, because this is the same thing as y minus 4 equals 5 multiplied by x squared. So it is multiplication that joined them. So what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So you use division to separate them. So you divide both sides by what you are trying to remove, which is 5. Look at this. It was 4 that we are trying to remove. That's why we subtracted 4 from both sides. Don't go and divide both sides by 4. If you divide both sides by 4, you are wrong. Why? Because it is addition that joined that 4, not multiplication. So let's see what is going to happen. So you are going to have y minus 4 divided by what? 5 equal to 5x squared. You divide that one 2 by 5. So they are going to cancel 5. We cancel 5. So what are we going to have left? You are going to have y minus 4 over 5 equal to x squared. Now what are we having left that is disturbing our x? We are having this 2, which is a power. Now this time around you are trying to remove power, right? So you have to make sure that you write both sides in terms of power. So you're having y minus 4 over 5 equals x squared. So this is what we have. We have y minus 4 over 5 equals x squared. So you write this so that you have power. So you say y minus 4 over 5 raised power 1 equals x squared. Now you remove the power. Now don't forget, we always remove power by dividing. We always remove power by dividing. So you divide this power by 2. You divide this power also by 2. You divide it by what you are trying to remove. And what you are trying to remove is 2. So this 2 we cancel this 2. So what are we going to have left? What you are going to have left is y minus 4 over 5 raised power 1 over 2 equals x. Then you can now rewrite it, bringing x first. So you can now say x is equal to y minus 4 over 5 raised power 1 over 2. Now don't forget that we said something, that whenever you're having power of 1 over 2, don't forget that it is power. Then you can say it is what? Square root. Then put your y minus 4 over 5. So this is going to be the correct answer, the correct solution to the question. Now let's try another one. Make x the subject of the formula. Mathematics, they always like using x almost all the time. So we have y equals 7 minus 2x squared. Y equals 7 minus 2x squared. Now what are those things that are disturbing x? This 2 is disturbing it. This 2 is also disturbing it. This 7 is also disturbing it. Now the first one you try to remove is the one that is farthest away from x. Which one? That's this 7. Now how is the 7, how is it joined to this x? Now don't forget that this minus is not for this 7. The minus is actually for the 2x squared. So that means that what's the sign that this 7 is having? Since they didn't put any sign, that means it's having plus. So since it is having plus, what's the opposite of addition? That is subtraction. So that means it is subtraction that you are going to use to remove this 7 like that. So rewriting it, we can rewrite it as y equal to, the 7 is having a plus sign, then minus 2x squared. So that means that since the 7 is having a plus sign, you remove it using minus 7. That means what? You subtract 7 from both sides. Now if you subtract 7 from both sides, you are going to have y minus 7 equal to, that will be what? 7 minus 2x squared. Then you subtract 7 from this side also, minus 7. This is the 7 that we subtracted from the left hand side. This is the 7 that we are subtracting from the right hand side. Now what's going to happen? This 7 we cancel this 7. Now what are we going to have left? We are going to have y minus 7 equals minus 2x squared. Now what are those things that are disturbing? What do we have left that is disturbing our x squared? We are having what? Minus 2, and we are also having these 2. Don't forget, we said that we must remove which one first? We must first remove the coefficient. So the coefficient is minus 2, so we try to remove it. Now how are we going to remove it? How is that minus 2, how is it joined to x? You see that there is nothing between them, so that means it is multiplication that is there. So you can rewrite it and say y minus 7 equals minus 2 multiplied by x squared. So it is now, since it is multiplication that is joining them, how are we going to remove? We remove with division. So you are going to remove with division. That means we divide both sides by what? By minus 2. Now if you divide both sides by minus 2, so you divide this side by minus 2, you divide this side by minus 2. Now what's going to happen? This minus 2 will cancel this minus 2. We are left with what? We are left with x squared. Now don't forget that we said you can write either side first, but let's still write it the way it is. Y minus 7 over minus 2 equals x squared. Now this is what we are having. This is what we are having. Now so now what's next? Now you can write this side before this side. If you do that, you're going to have x squared equals y minus 7 over minus 2. Now what the thing is that this minus, you have to look for a way to also remove it. We don't just leave negative sign with a denominator. If the negative sign is with the numerator, it's better, but don't leave it with the denominator. Now how are you going to remove that negative sign? What you do is x squared is equal to, since this is a fraction, that means that whatever you do to the upper part, you also do to the lower part. That's how we remove signs in fraction. Whatever you do to the upper one, you also do to the lower one. Now how can you remove negative sign? You can remove negative sign by multiplying it with another negative sign. So that means you come here and you say multiply by minus 1, and you come here and you also say multiply by minus 1. So you multiply both the top and bottom by what? By minus 1. Because in mathematics, minus multiplied by minus is plus, minus multiplied by plus is minus, plus multiplied by minus is minus, then plus multiplied by plus is plus. Now the trick to doing it is that, the trick to remember this is that whenever the signs are the same, the answer will be always be positive. Look at this one too. When they are the same, the answer is what? Positive. But whenever the signs are different, the answer will be negative. Look at this, plus minus, no, they are different, so the answer will be minus. Look at this one too, plus minus, the answer is minus, and this one is minus plus, and the answer is also minus. So whenever the signs that you are multiplying are the same, the answer will be what? Plus. But whenever the signs are different, the answer will be minus. Now if you multiply minus 1 multiplied by y, no, you are using this minus 1 to multiply everything on top. So by the time this minus multiply, this y is having a plus sign, but they are not putting it. So by the time you say minus times plus, that will give you minus y. Then you say minus times minus, that will give you what? Plus 7. So we have plus 7 all over. Now you say minus times minus, that will also give you plus, that will be plus 2. Then you say 2 times 1, that's 2. Now another thing is that you see that the first term here is having minus, so you bring it as the second term. Those ones that have minus, you always treat minus with very great care in mathematics. So you try to remove it, you don't let it be the first one by rearranging. Now how are we going to rearrange? We just say x squared equal to, this one does not have minus, so you bring it first. You say plus 7, and if you like, you don't put the plus, just write only 7, it's still the same thing, minus y, then over 2. You see that this 2 is having plus, and I did not put it again, so it doesn't matter. But if it's minus, you must always put it. So this y is the owner of this minus. That's why when we move the y to the back, the minus also follow it. So look at our minus y, look at our minus y. You see that everything we have written is basically the same thing. Look at our plus 7, look at our plus 7. So now you now try to remove these 2 like that, and the 2 is a power, so you must also write this one so that it will have power. So what you do is x squared equals 7 minus y. Don't forget that 7 and plus 7 are the same, So 7 minus y over 2, everything raised power 1. Now, writing that, we can now try to remove that 2. So you are going to say x squared equals 7 minus y over 2, all of them raised power 1. Now, since it is 2 that we are trying to remove and it is a power, so you divide this power by 2 and you also divide this power by 2 so that they will cancel. So these 2 will cancel these 2. You are left with x. So you see that our x is now standing alone, nothing is disturbing it again. Then on the other side, you are going to have 7 minus y over 2 raised power of 1 over 2. So this is going to be x equal to, now this raised power 1 over 2, don't forget that we said we can write it as a square root. If you like, put it 2. If you like, don't put it. But if it is any other number but 2, then we must put it. So this will be 7 minus y all over 2. This is our final answer.